We have some great news, everybody. Team member previews for Epic Universe are starting to come to a close, at least the first iteration, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. However, if you guys were not aware, it was only for 1 week at first, and then they almost immediately extended it to 2 weeks because they wanted to make sure everybody could kind of get in. So we'll talk all about that here in a little bit, but we're gonna talk about some of the previews, what we're starting to hear, some things that I think I'm now even a little bit more excited about, and some things I am a little bit nervous about. But we are going to be kind of talking all about it here today. Before heading into the park, I actually need to point out that the new Cinnabon location has officially opened here in City Walk. This is their new stand. So if you used to get it kind of on the other side of the actual City Walk store, now this is where you will pick them up. I think all of the items are still the same that we had from before. As you can see, your classic 4-pack, 6-pack, just a classic roll. Everything like that. No seating or anything over here. It doesn't look like. We have this umbrella here, but I'm not seeing any seating. I guess you could kind of sit around the corner over here. But yeah, as far as it goes, it is finally back open. If you guys are looking for your Cinnabon out here, they had like stands that are kind of like just like throughout City Walk here, but now they actually have their physical location back. Also, I'd love for you guys to guess what time it is right now that we have bumped the clock forward an hour. We have the sun over there above the palm trees. Also, tell me that's not a beautiful view right now walking into Universal. If you guys wouldn't mind, really quick before we do get scanned in, if you don't mind subscribing to the channel, we are almost at 5K. I don't even know by the time this video comes out if we have hit it yet or not, but we are super, super close. We have doubled our subscribers year over year. I don't think we're gonna quite do it this year. I mean, I could be hopefully optimistic, but again, we would have to go from like 4,000 up to 8,000. But again, we're almost at 5,000 here, which is pretty crazy. Let's go see if our facial recognition works today.
Closer, please.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we are working. I have only ever had issues if I'm scanning in more than once. So if I'm here over at like studios, and then I go over to islands, if I'm doing it too fast, that's the only time that I've noticed that I actually need to show my pass. But if I've been here for like 2-3 hours or so, typically it's fine. So no issues with that so far. I'm liking it. It could be a little bit quicker there. Sometimes it's really fast, maybe because I was wearing a hat today. It's kind of sad. We are coming pretty close to the end of Mardi Gras. We have all-time low coming up this weekend, March 15th, and Lawrence on the 16th. Then we have next weekend and then the weekend after. So we've got about 2.5 to 2 full weeks or so left until the end is here for Mardi Gras. What a great event, by the way. I do wish it was a little bit longer, but I understand kind of how the timing works. We need to see Sensational soon. Again, it looks like they have dropped the water levels down so we can see everything exposed here. I imagine they'll be raising them at some point here kind of shortly, especially once Mardi Gras is done. Okay, we found a spot over here. We're actually in the shade, which is kind of nice. Beautiful day out, by the way. So I want to just talk a little bit about what we are hearing from these team member previews. Now, I have some friends that are team members, and we have been reading things online from other team members, but let's kind of just like start with the big one, and that is going to be everybody, every single person is ranting and raving about Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment. They're saying that the ride is incredible, possibly like the best ride that Universal has ever created, possibly the best ride in general, like at a theme park. I don't know, you know, there's a lot of hype behind Epic Universe. And so like, obviously people are going to be pretty obsessed with what they see and doing it for the first time. There's been practically nothing at this level where you have that many attractions that you're able to do for the first time. So like anytime something new opens, it's typically just like one thing that opens. Imagine like, you know, VillainCon when that opened, or like when they reopened Tiana's or whatever, Guardians, Velocicoaster, like it's typically just one thing that you're like riding and experiencing, where this is an entire theme park. So I think like the emotions are high, you know, everybody's kind of getting amped up, and like, I'm not saying it's not the best thing to ever hit the theme parks. All I'm pointing out is that it could be like an emotional thing, to be like, this is the best thing to ever hit the theme parks. I am guessing it could potentially be like a top 3 to top 5 ride at any theme park ever. But I do want to temper expectations. However, when the ride is being talked about, everybody cannot say enough good things about it. It's like people just don't have enough words and like descriptions to kind of really dig into Monsters Unchained. So I think I'm really looking forward to it, and it was very high on my list already. It might have bumped up because even like my personal friends that are team members, they're still saying it's fantastic, so it's not just kind of like the hype online. And I'm glad that it's not just like the horror community, because if it's just like the fans of like HHN and like, you know, horror stuff that are saying it's great, well, it's like, well, that's good, but like how much do the people that maybe aren't a huge fan of horror, how much are they into it? It's kind of the same thing with like Hagrid's and like Forbidden Journey. Like if people just find the attraction great and a lot of fun, but aren't even necessarily interested in Harry Potter, then I think that they've really like delivered properly. So that's just something I would kind of keep in mind, is like if it's delivering to people that aren't into spooky stuff, it is also really, really good then. So again, that is like the big thing that we are hearing so far, is Monsters Unchained is super, super delivering, which is super good news. Now give me just a minute. I need to head into Diagon Alley because I need to cast some spells. I am trying to break the top 100 of all time leaderboard. I am like right at 200. I have quite a bit to do, but I'm gonna come in here, cast a few spells, and then we'll keep talking. Again, I'm not gonna bring you along for it. This is a personal thing, you know what I mean? I still come to the parks for me, guys. We were here the other day, and it was not that busy inside of Diagon Alley. Definitely has changed today. Very, very busy. Currently, we are 157 there, but our next quest here in the chain will take us over to Hogsmeade. So we are going to walk and talk, make our way over to Islands right now. Now, something I am hearing a lot is that the actual park and everything is massive. And I said this before, I said from what we are seeing from the concept art, from like BioReconstruct and everything like that, everything looked just ginormous in there. It looked like it was going to be not just like the actual acreage, but I'm talking like the actual, like the buildings, the rides, like the queues, everything I think are absolutely massive. Now let me just go on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's still relevant. So a lot of times right now, people are kind of duped by forced perspective, right? So Disney's really good at it, Universal's really good at it. It's why things look really, really big, even if they aren't necessarily that big. Disney does it like a lot of that over inside of Galaxy's Edge. You can even get a little bit of that over inside of like Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley. And just like sometimes when you look at something, they're able to make it look a lot bigger than it really is. It's just because kind of the surrounding environments. And I said the thing that really sells a theme park and an attraction would be how much can you make it realistically big. So it's very hard to tell if something is like ginormous, if it just is ginormous. You're like, dang, like that looks really big. Is it, you know, forced perspective, or is it just actually huge? So they're using a lot of big elements, which has me really excited because I'm like, oh, I'd prefer to see realistic big elements versus forced perspective big elements, because there is a big difference, and sometimes you could totally tell when something is forced perspective, especially from a different angle. So I think that is going to be a huge win for Epic, is the fact that things are just going to not only look big, but they genuinely are big. You can see the moon right there above the horror and makeup show. It's like right there, and it is still very lit up out here. Look at how nice the sky looks. So blue. I don't see a single cloud up there. Weather is fantastic. Come on down to Universal, everybody. Come hang out. Oh, it's so lovely down here right now. I'm pretty sure that this is where they record the podcast, inside of these doors here, right on the corner, Universal Studios Radio. Also, really, really good information has been coming out from the Discover Universal podcast. They talk all about Epic, and it is just like amping me up even more than I already am. While we make our trek over there, let's talk a little bit about Wicked. And yeah, for anybody that is fans of Wicked, I think you might be a huge fan of what I'm about to tell you. Now, the CEO of Universal has come out and said they are exploring attractions and potentially full-blown lands for Wicked. And I think we've talked a little bit about this, but that's huge. A lot of people are kind of trying to figure out where it could go. Obviously, over here in Islands of Adventure, once we get there, of course, we do have the entire area of the Lost Continent that needs to kind of get redone. Nothing is there at the moment outside of like the restaurant and then like a few little shops and everything. But I think you could ultimately just re-theme everything. You kind of have these big structures there. I think you could almost put the Land of Oz in there, maybe. And then all of a sudden you have Oz and you've got Wicked, and you could put attractions in there. I don't know, I mean, you've got a lot of space back there, so that's a pretty good opportunity for you. But also, you do have Epic Universe. We know we're gonna be getting expansion lands over there. I don't know the time frame, obviously, but yeah, I would say there's a good chance that we could get something over in Epic Universe pertaining to Wicked. So I guess keep your eyes out for that. Again, when we find out, we'll talk more about it. Now, whether or not it is just one attraction, maybe over at like studio side, I could see that happening. I could also see it happening like inside of Simpsons. If they got rid of Simpsons, you could like redo that and then you turn the Simpsons ride into like a Wicked ride, but you really update it so it's like, you know, newer, screens are a little bit more clear. I don't know, we'll see, but yeah, we have kind of confirmed that they said that they really want to be, you know, getting Wicked into the parks, and they're already kind of messing with not just attractions, but full-blown lands. Now, I am obviously casting some spells here today on my own time, but I do want to talk a little bit about the Wizarding World Ministry of Magic that is coming to Epic Universe. That is the next talking point that I have here. And the big thing that I want to point out as we are kind of traversing through, enjoy the music here, would be the fact that we don't have any real details on the ride itself. And again, we'll talk more about it here in a second, but that's still kind of a big mystery right now. Speaking of mystery, let's see if I can scan in right now and not have to show my pass. All right, let's see. Good, how are you?
Besides my allergies, pretty good.
Awesome, thank you. Good luck with the allergies. The sun is so bright right now. It's at that angle where like as you walk, it is just blinding you. So back on with the shades. However, let us talk a little bit about the Harry Potter stuff that we are kind of starting to hear. They didn't have anything open. You could walk into the land for a little while, and then they finally opened up the queue to the battle at the Ministry there. So we know so far that the queue is fantastic. We are hearing that the queue is beautiful. Also, again, massive. You know, that is the theme of Epic Universe. It is epic in size, scale, and technology from what I am hearing. But regardless, from what I am hearing, the queue is one of a kind. It is unlike anything that you have seen. I'm kind of hearing the same thing when it does come to Monsters Unchained and a few other rides, but I mean the big two, I guess, would be Monsters Unchained and then Battle at the Ministry there. So nobody has ridden the ride though, and that is where one of my first concerns comes in. I am hearing rumors, I don't know if it's true, again, rumors are rumors on the internet, so don't believe everything that you're hearing, but I am hearing that the ride is a little kind of delayed still. They are kind of getting things testing and things like that, and so I'm a little nervous for the actual consistency of that ride. That is why I would say one of the first rides at Epic should be like Ministry. Like you need to go over, battle, like get there right away, because I would be concerned about that ride going down throughout the day. Now, obviously I am just predicting, and this is no guarantee, but considering the fact that we are kind of still delayed in the middle of previews for that ride, and you can see the queue, but you can't do the ride, does have me nervous, if I'm being honest. I think it is going to be arguably the best ride at Epic. I don't know. I think there's kind of the top three everybody are looking at, which would be Monsters Unchained, you know, Battle at the Ministry, and then Stardust. I think those are kind of the three that everybody is like predicting to be kind of the best three rides there. Obviously kind of the more thrilling rides, and obviously the most like technically advanced rides. However, if that ride performs, I could really see it being one of the best. But again, with high technology, also comes high risk of, again, performance. So that is a big question mark for me going into Epic right now, is how well is that ride going to perform as far as consistency goes. I think it's going to be an amazing ride. I think the attraction itself, from like start to finish, from the queue all the way to the end, I think will be great. But I do have a concern, and that would just be how well does it perform? Can you chug through people and get people moving and grooving? Because if it does fine and everything is good and the tech holds up, great, nothing to worry about. If it doesn't, and there are a lot of downtimes with it, that eats up the only attraction inside of the Ministry of Magic. So that would just be the one thing that I'm like really like, oh no. Hopefully that's not the case though, obviously. But either way, we are heading back. I'm gonna go cast a few spells here, and then we're gonna talk some more about something else I wanna talk about, which would be Stardust, considering we have Velocicoaster next door. And we'll start to compare those two and everything we're starting to hear. You know what's really nice though? The wand just fits inside of my bag. Whoop. There it is. It's literally just enough. It goes like right to the top there. So we got it. We're gonna go cast some spells now that we just got done talking about Harry Potter. What a time to do so. Let's talk about Stardust Racers as we see Velocicoaster cruising by right now. And everything that I'm hearing is basically these two are the two most intense coasters here at Universal. Now obviously I think that's a little subjective because people could find the Hulk the most intense, to be honest with you, but I mean, Velocicoaster's pretty wild. One of the most wild coasters that I've ever been on, in all honesty. I would still say it's hard to say between Velocicoaster and Iron Gwazi. I still think Gwazi probably takes the cake for most intense coaster, but it is a different type of intensity. Like, you're launching with Velocicoaster, where Gwazi you're like going up the chain hill. So to watch this ride come by over and over and see just the whippy snappiness of it, and to know that people are saying like it's hard to determine whether or not Stardust or Velocicoaster is better / more intense, is a really good sign. That means that we have a really good coaster on our hand. I would say, just from rumors, if it's that close, I think the battling element will end up giving it to Stardust Racers. That's just, again, assuming that we have a more intense coaster in Stardust Racers. Now again, so if it does compete with the intensity and the fun and thrill of Velocicoaster, it's going to be hard to beat that when you're dueling with another coaster, and the way that you're diving over each other, I think it's going to be really cool. Because imagine you had another track that went basically parallel with Velocicoaster and you guys were dueling, you'd be like, that's crazy, that's incredible. So one other thing I am a little nervous about, let's walk and talk and I'll explain it to you. By the way, this is partially forced perspective here. It is still quite large, but there is some forced perspective elements being done there on Hogwarts Castle, because it's not the size of Hogwarts Castle, obviously, but it looks like it's that big, right? Because it looks like it's way up on the mountain there. It looks like it's huge. Forced perspective. Now, as we are walking out of Hogsmeade and we're talking about Stardust Racers, can anybody guess why I might have some slight concerns with that attraction? I'm sure a lot of you guys already are aware of what I'm about to talk about, and that would be the last dueling coaster that we had here at Universal, the Dueling Dragons. Some of you guys might have known it as Dragon Challenge, but again, originally Dueling Dragons. And one big issue that I am concerned about would be the fact that Dueling Dragons kind of had this little bit of a reputation for being known that people would like almost throw stuff at the other train. I don't think it was necessarily on purpose all of the time, but sometimes there's just bad apples that exist inside of the theme parks, and there were stories about, you know, pennies or rocks or objects just in general that would fly off when you would be battling and dueling on the coaster, and ultimately there were a lot of problems from it. Some people believe that that is why they ultimately had to take the ride down. I don't think that's the case. I think they literally had to make room for, again, Hagrid's. And on top of that, I would also say that like they did try and have, you know, the dueling coaster there. And I don't know, again, if there were issues or if just people were like, maybe it's a little too intense. I don't really know. Obviously, Hagrid's is super smooth, a lot of fun. So I think at the end of the day, it was kind of a win, and now they're bringing back a dueling coaster. It'll be cool to see if they have any like nods or like little Easter eggs in there that kind of come back from Dueling Dragons, and they put them like throughout the queue or something in there. I am hoping to see some of that. That would be pretty cool. But either way, that is a big thing that I'm nervous about as well. Not quite the same level as like the Battle of the Ministry, just because I think with the way that they do like the scans and everything before you actually go into rides, you know, imagine you have to basically go through metal detectors for a lot of the rides now, especially ones that kind of have these interactions. I imagine we're not going to have any problems, but there is always still the slight issue of just being like, well, what happens if something happens, right? That is what ends up happening. It's the what ifs, and yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I think the idea of the technology being pseudo problematic with Battle would be a little bit more of a concern for me, because I just think they've got everything handled when it comes to the dueling coasters. They wouldn't have opened them and made this big kind of statement piece inside of Celestial Park if they weren't like super certain they weren't going to run into the same issues that they have with Dueling Dragons. Anybody that maybe needs to get some time away from the crowds and just all like the sounds and everything like that, a really good place is back here by Mythos, by the way. You can see like all of the rides and everything, but it's like really peaceful. Almost nobody is ever back here. You get like flowing water if that's like a sound that you like to hear, kind of that waterfall, and you can still see all of the coasters. It's just a great view. Let's just take in the views as we talk about our next thing that we want to talk about, and that would be the food. And what I am hearing with the food is a lot of people are saying it is good food. I have heard there are a few hits and a few misses, but that's gonna happen when you have a million items basically to try. So that, oh look at this is perfect. We have Velocicoaster going and Hulk just launched. I wish I had like a super wide angle lens. You guys could have seen that. That was cool. That was really, really cool actually. I want to try a lot of the food, and I'm really excited with the kind of variations that they have. However, with team member previews, we didn't hear a ton about the food. I've just heard a few things here and there, nothing honestly to write home about, at least yet, but I don't think they got to try a ton. So that is something that we got to still wait for a little bit. When it does come to AP previews, here's the thing. I am super excited to go during opening day, and I want to see everything working and operating like as the park should. Previews, my guess is they're not going to have everything going. We don't have the nighttime show going for team member previews. I don't think all of the food options are open. I don't think, again, I know that they were done by like 4 or 5 p.m. I think they weren't going into like the night, so they didn't really get to experience like the nightlife. And I think Epic is going to shine in the evening, to be honest with you. I think that is where that park is going to really come to life. That being said, we do have a lot of question marks on what actually will be happening at night and kind of the shows to see. I don't know if they were able to see all of the entertainment shows either. I know characters were kind of doing some meet and greets, but I think there's going to be even more than that. So still a few question marks that we do have from what we are hearing. Again, all of this is just what people are talking about. This isn't like me. This isn't my thoughts. This is nothing to do with like how I genuinely feel about the park. This is just what people are talking about. But the news coming from those people and like those sources is very good right now. It is positive. It's good to know that what is being seen, like the rumors that are kind of happening or that were happening, are kind of true, and like how good things are. So I think we are in really good hands with Epic Universe. Obviously, after previews and everything, I think we'll get a little bit more kind of hands-on, a real feel about everything. Now, again, the way I think everything is going to work out as far as previews goes, so those of you guys that are pass holders and you're interested in previews, again, I know nothing about them. What I can tell you, though, is every time something new opens, they do team member previews and they do media really, really close to each other, and then very quickly, they do AP previews. So based on the fact that we have team member previews with family coming up at the end of March, my guess is we're looking at a late March, early April for media, followed by AP previews, if that is how they do things, because that is how they have done everything else. They do, again, like it's team members and kind of like the higher ups, and then they do the media, and then they do annual pass, and then they soft open for everybody, and then like full open. But I don't think they're going to soft open tickets for Epic, just so you guys are aware. If you're not a pass holder, I don't think you're going to get in before May 22nd. I don't even know if they're going to do pass holder previews. I assume so, because they kind of mentioned that they are going to, but obviously anything is subject to change. But just so that you guys are aware, if you are interested in doing the pass holder previews, we're looking at probably sometime early April. So I'm going to guess we're going to get some announcements here. And that is literally everything, because if you look at the timeline, team members that worked at Epic were the first ones to do stuff in Epic. Then it was team members that were kind of across the entire Universal Orlando Resort. Then it will be team members with their families, friends, whatever. Then it will be media. Then it will be annual pass holders, and then we will have the park open. So I don't think we're gonna take pass holder previews all the way up to May 22nd. I could be wrong, totally could be wrong. Again, this is all just stuff that I'm speculating based on everything else that is opened, and they've done the previews and like the way that like the lineup is. That is why I'm saying that to you guys. So if you guys are interested in doing previews, keep in mind, my guess would be April, early April, potentially like mid-April. I don't think they'll go too late. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Can I get thumbs up for that, right? Can we follow that line and get there? Okay, anyway, I need to move to the front of the park and start making my way out. Again, look at all of the light that we have right now. It's wonderful, isn't it? And this is 7:40 p.m. and it is still this light, and it is only going to get more bright. That is another thing I kind of want to see what happens with Epic as we're kind of moving through Seuss here is, how, you know, with how late it gets dark now going into summer, especially in May, it is going to take a while to get that sun to go down. How late is the park going to be open? It's got to be like 10 or 11, it feels like, especially if you want to do fireworks in the evening, because like it's pretty much almost 9 o'clock before you get the sun to go down. So if the sun is just going down and the park is closing, how does that work, right? Because then all the nighttime stuff that everybody wants to see kind of gets shelved until we basically turn the clocks back again. Now, for those of you guys that have made it to the end of the video, let me know in the comments below, outside of attractions, because we all know that everybody wants to experience the attractions at Epic Universe, what are you most looking forward to? Food? Just the vibes of like hanging out? The shows? Let me know. Can't be attractions though. Anything else, it can be there. What is something like you are looking forward to? Again, it could be literally anything, but you can't say attractions. What is one thing that you guys are like, this is like the other big thing, like I am really looking forward to this specific thing? For me, it's definitely going to be the way that the park lights up in the evening, specifically Celestial Park. And like the score, the music, and I've been talking about that for a while. I'm really excited to see how it all looks. That is something I'm really looking forward to. The shows I'm also really looking forward to as well. But if I had to point to one, it would be kind of like the vibes of the nightlife, the lighting, and like the music, and how everything is like cohesive, if that makes sense. Now, if you guys did have fun with me here today, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. We have a lot of Epic Universe content still to come in preparation for everything. We're gonna be talking a little bit about that. So a lot of fun stuff still yet to come this year. And again, if you guys haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, we are battling for 5K, and we'll see where the end of the year takes us. But again, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and thank you guys so much for being here.